I thought before we officially start tonight, uh, I mentioned it yesterday at yesterday's stream that we were gonna see the PS5 stuff and see the price and everything, and I was just gonna take a couple minutes just to um, go over it and discuss feelings. I guess I don't know. Um, I mean, the games look fine, but the big thing, the big boy is the price and the release date. Now, I think my final prediction. I forget what I think the thing about my. Let me see. My final prediction. Let me pull that back up here. Was 550 for the standard, 450 for discless. I was actually $50 over on each of those. So technically, standard was 500, discless, the digital version, 400. So it's slightly under what I guessed, I guess. So I guess there's that. I guessed released November 17th, and they said it's coming out the 12th. So it was a little over a month off. I thought they were going to do like a Tuesday thing. But they're doing Thursday, the 12th. The reason I guess 17th is that Xbox, I think, is doing the 10th. And so I was like, oh, PlayStation, they're going to just release it a week after on the 17th. But 2 days later than Xbox, which is all right. It's whatever. And the price, that's fine. It could have been a lot worse, I feel like. Honestly. So I will I think it's fine. There was other stuff that was announced. The like PS Plus collection, I think they're calling it, which is fine, I guess. If you get a PS5 and you're like, what am I gonna play on my PS5? And if you have PS Plus and none of the, I guess, launch games look interesting, then you're like, well, I've got all these like a few select PS4 games that maybe if you didn't play, then you can instantly download them. It's still technically value wise not as good as like what Xbox offering. So like I saw the argument being made that like Xbox, Sony, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, they all are like trying to dominate different tracks. Like so, Nintendo does its own thing clearly. Sony is like, we're the gaming box for you. Points, finger. Like, do you want a game? Do you want our exclusive stuff? Then that's like that, and you might be paying technically a small premium for that. So it's like, oh, you want your Spider-Man game? Cool. Also, I guess I'll get back to the point I was making, but Final Fantasy 16 revealed, shown off. It looks super interesting to me, and that's apparently console exclusive. I think also to PC. But like, yeah, I guess Final Fantasy 16 just not coming to Xbox, which is interesting. I didn't think they would take that track, that stance, after they did so much other stuff. Like they brought Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy 15 and everything to Xbox. It's changing, whatever. But that game's not coming out for a long ass time, I assume. I also wouldn't be surprised if before we see that game, we get Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2. If I'm being 100% honest. And then Xbox, their whole track that they're trying to dominate is, hey, we're the value box, and we're kind of trying to just get you to buy our service. So, like, we have a box, but most of our games also come on PC. So if you have a PC, you're fine. You can still get those. And if you get a box, we pretty much just want you to buy our Game Pass thing and all those. Oh, and hey, you don't want to buy our cheap box for $2.99? Well, you can You know, just make it like a phone and pay like $30 or $35 a month for it and get all this shit bundled. So it's interesting. It's like Sony is holding down the classic model of like, hey, you buy a box every 7 years and we'll get you some games. And we've invested heavily in not only our first party studios, but also securing console exclusive games like Final Fantasy 16. Xbox is doing like a more modern approach of like, hey, we have like these services and it's just a great value if you're technically take advantage of it, and also we're selling shit piecemeal, or not piecemeal, but we're doing the box like you can for 2 years pay like $35 a month or something for it. And then Nintendo's like, hey, here's this Mario collection that we didn't do anything with, but here you go. So that's basically that. I'm not trying to shit on like Nintendo or anything, for sure. I love how I'm doing this just over a black box. Like I didn't even care to make a thing. How unfortunate. Yeah, I think it's I. I mean, I assume Xbox making the pivot to what it's being like more on service, it doesn't care. Microsoft doesn't care if they're the number one, and they made it clear if they're not the number one selling box, because it seems like they're willing to give that to Sony and be like, hey, we are selling games on PC too. Like we're just, if you want our box, that's great. Buy our games, and we'll be a number two to Sony. Sony's like, we want a ton of people to buy our box, and it's like, okay. And we're going to make you want to buy the box because we have all these exclusives and stuff. And I think that's just by what I got by like internet reaction that I've seen today since the event and the pre-orders going live and the fervor for those. I assume Sony is going to do pretty well for itself for this generation, the coming up generation, just like it did this past generation. I assume it's going to be kind of the same thing if I had to actually guess. Just because it seems that the price didn't go too high to be like a deterrent for enough people. I think there's going to be plenty of pre-orders. If you ask me, I think Sony's going to sell many boxes. Many boxes indeed. The PS Plus game collection thing I brought up because the most interesting part, other than it just being like a cool bonus, if you got PS Plus, hey, here's some games, download them, blah blah blah. The other thing it does is if you buy just the digital version of the PS5, and say you had like a bunch of discs of like these popular PS4 games, it's like a mea culpa almost, where it's like, hey, maybe you trade in your PS4 and now you're like, well, now I have this discless thing and I can't, do backwards compatibility, and it's like, but hey, you just get them all digitally. That was an interesting point I had seen brought up. It's like, if you had a PS4 and you had all these discs of all these popular games, like, I don't know, The Last of Us, I don't know what other games, Bloodborne, stuff like that, then you're immediately getting like a digital version of it, perhaps. So just an interesting thought on that front. So yeah, just wanted to say a bit about that. I thought it was just interesting. And like I said, I thought the price was honestly going to be higher, and I thought it could have been even higher than I guessed. So on that front, it's pretty good, I guess, for people out there who are able to spend money during these still crazy times. And a lot of people have been laid off. Good on them. Get that box.